Minority groups are populations that differ from the majority in terms of characteristics such as race, ethnicity, religion, language, or cultural practices. These groups are often smaller in number compared to the dominant group within a society. While the term minority primarily refers to numerical representation, it also implies a position of relative disadvantage or marginalization. Members of minority groups often experience disparities in access to resources, opportunities, and power, making their experiences distinct from those of the majority population. Now let's look at some examples. One example of a minority group is an ethnic minority, such as the indigenous peoples in various countries. Despite being native to their lands, these groups are often a smaller proportion of the population due to historical displacement and colonization. Another example is religious minorities, such as individuals practicing a faith that differs from the dominant religion in their region. For instance, a small group of Buddhists in a predominantly Christian country would be considered a religious minority. A final example is linguistic minorities, which include people who speak a language that is not widely spoken in their society. An example could be speakers of Welsh in the United Kingdom, where English is the dominant language. However, minority groups are not without their challenges. One significant challenge is discrimination. Minority groups often face unequal treatment in areas like education, employment, and housing, which can lead to long-term economic and social disadvantages. Discrimination may be systemic, meaning it is built into the policies and structures of a society, or it may occur on an individual level through prejudice and bias. Another challenge is underrepresentation. Minority groups are often excluded from positions of influence in politics, media, and other areas of public life. This lack of representation can make it difficult for their voices to be heard and their interests to be addressed. For example, if there are few politicians from a particular minority group, the specific needs of that group might not be prioritized in policymaking. A third challenge is cultural erosion. As minority groups strive to integrate into the broader society, they may face pressure to abandon their cultural practices, languages, and traditions. This loss of cultural identity can lead to feelings of alienation and disconnection from their heritage. For instance, children in linguistic minority groups may grow up speaking only the dominant language and lose fluency in their ancestral tongue. Now let's look at some protections for minority groups. One key protection is anti-discrimination laws. Many countries have enacted legislation to ensure that individuals are not treated unfairly based on characteristics like race, religion, or ethnicity. These laws provide mechanisms for people to report instances of discrimination and seek justice. For example, equal employment opportunity laws aim to prevent workplace discrimination and promote fairness. Another form of protection is cultural preservation initiatives. Governments and organisations often work to safeguard the languages, traditions, and practices of minority groups. For example, language revitalisation programmes provide resources for teaching and maintaining minority languages. Cultural festivals and museums also play a role in celebrating and preserving the unique identities of these groups. A third protection is the promotion of representation. Efforts are being made to ensure that minority groups have a voice in decision-making processes. This can include measures like creating reserved seats in legislative bodies, supporting minority-owned businesses, and encouraging diversity in media portrayals. By amplifying the perspectives of minority groups, these initiatives help create a more inclusive society.